Now people are gonna say, oh, but I read you should only cycle between 45 and 55 or whatever it's gonna be. My answer to that is I don't fucking care, because what you've read is gonna be based upon whatever. What are the best tips for a raw conjugate method lifter? I don't think this matters if it's raw, geared, single ply, multi ply, or what. I mean, if it's a conjugate method lifter, what would be the best tips that I would have for them? That would be, and these are in no specific order. When you do max effort work, shut down the max effort work if your technique begins to fail. So if there's technical failure, the max effort work is done. All right, that's one. The second would be, and these are just off the top of my head, the second would be when you do max effort work and there's not that technical breakdown, then you need to actually do max effort work. So you want to work up and try to get somewhere between 2 and 4 total repetitions over a 90% range. That can be singles, that can be a couple sets of 2, it could be a triple, it could be the last the one rep at 90% and another rep at 101% or whatever, a little over 100% or whatnot. But you want to try to be within that range. You don't want to exceed it. I'd rather have somebody just do 1 or 2 that fall in that range than do too much. The third would be to understand exactly what the dynamic effort method is. That there are different variances in regards to the cycles that you can use. There's probably hundreds of different cycles. You can make up your own fucking cycle. But you have to understand it's about applying as much force as you can to the barbell to get it to move. A general range that I use for people if they're trying to figure this out is you should pretty much have an idea of what your max is. Work up somewhere around 50, 60% and see how fast you can move that, if it's a squat or if it's a bench. As long as you can maintain that bar speed, then you can go up percentages in that wave. So let's say it ends up being you can move 70% at the same speed that you can move 60% or 50%. Then you can create a 3-week cycle that's going to be 60, 65, 70%. Now people are going to say, oh, but I read you should only cycle between 45 and 55 or whatever it's going to be. My answer to that is I don't fucking care, because what you've read is going to be based upon whatever population that coach or that author is working with or whoever they plagiarized their fucking shit from. It doesn't matter. What matters, because you're going to be different than what somebody else is going to be. Somebody that's been training with the dynamic effort method for 10 years is going to have more neural proficiency or the ability to contract everything kind of at the same time than a beginner is going to be. So that's going to require them to actually use a lighter percentage, because they're getting more out of the lighter percentage because there's more muscle being exerted during that time than what there would be with the beginner. So that's why I like to keep shit really basic. 50 to 60% is a decent range for anybody to be able to generate really damn close to whatever their maximum force is going to be. You can measure that with a fucking Tendo or however you want to measure it, or just go on how it feels. If you go on how it feels, that's the best way that I know to do it. And then you can structure it that way. So understand how to put together those dynamic effort methods. And this is with bands, with chains, without bands, without chains. It all fucking applies. It's the same thing. The only time that rule would change if it's going to be a circa max phase, and 95% of the people listening to this don't fucking need to do that phase. They're not to a point where they need to do that phase, nor do they have to, which is going to fall back onto, in the first video I did, which was on training economy. If you don't have to do a fucking circa max phase to increase your max for the meet, then don't do it. Do what works. I mean, it's pretty simple with that. The next thing is to understand that the way that the program really works is it's using a max effort method, a dynamic effort method, and a repetition method. Those are the three different ways to increase muscle tension or to increase strength. It's combining those three methods, coupling those methods, conjugating those methods to be able to become stronger, which means you have to have the repetition method in there as well. That's what applies to your accessories. Your choice of accessories or supplemental exercises, or however you're going to define it, has to be based upon A, your strengths, B, your weaknesses. And yes, I know that sounds like no shit common sense, because what else is it going to be? The reason I say both is you have to bring up your weaknesses to get stronger. So that's an important aspect. So if you need, more, and I hate to use body parts, but it's easier to explain this way. If you need more triceps for your bench press, then you're going to throw in more tricep type work. I like to think of the lifts more as, lockout off your chest, eccentric or set up or holding, yielding, and that type of standpoint. But if you need more triceps, then you need to focus on the triceps, and that's where that repetition method is going to be. Where I think people fail a lot with a conjugate type system is they don't train the accessories, especially the first ones that fall in the program after the main lift. They don't fucking train them hard enough. It's still training, and you still have to train fucking hard. Those movements need to be trained hard, because they're the ones that are really going to build those lifts. They're going to build the max effort lifts, they're going to build the dynamic lifts, which in turn is going to build the main lifts. Those, you need to train damn close to failure or to failure on that. And by that, I don't mean doing a tricep extension to where you fail and the bar busts your teeth out. I'm talking about you do a repetition and you realize, I probably don't have another one. Maybe you can force another one out, but you don't know. Fuck it. To me, that's failure. So those need to be trained hard and heavy. And then when you move through the training session, that exertion factor on how hard you're actually training the movements can decrease as you go through the training session. And that's going to happen anyhow because of fatigue. So those would be the biggest tips that I have from the conjugate standpoint. And don't let it become too fucking complicated. It can be very complicated. I can go watch the seminar video that we put up, 15 fucking years ago. And it's 10 hours or whatever if you string all those videos together. Yeah, watch that, and it can get pretty fucking complicated. I'm trying to break it down to nuts and bolts to make it very simple for you to understand, because you got to understand the basics before you can understand the complexities that fall within the system. Don't focus on the complexity, or don't focus on those things that are complex. Focus on the simple. Understand those, because that's the biggest battle.
Biggie.